Hey Aries, how's it going? My name's Alex. I've got some oracle messages for you here today. Now, before I turned on the camera, I was doing a meditation and I very vividly saw a crossbeam in like a house or a cottage, like a wooden house. And the crossbeam near the ceiling, that was on fire. And there were like drops, like drips of fire coming down off the crossbeam. And they landed on the floor, and the floor was just bare soil, dirt, and it was like hard packed, and like an old school basement or something like that, where the floor was just hard packed over years of use or stamped down with like a tool, and where the flames dropped, flowers grew. And then I pulled the alchemical symbol of the earth to help clarify this. And I just get the sense of something artificially built, artificially constructed, that is not as real as you might think it is, or not as real as you may have needed it to be. And there has to be some sort of clearing away of artificial things and a rediscovery of what is real and what is natural. And, we build houses to protect ourselves from the elements, to have a sense of place, have a sense of home, have a sense of order in our lives. But they are artificial constructs, for better or worse. It's just a fact. Humans made them. And when we see things like burning, in a symbolic way, or even in a literal way, when these artificial constructs, when these artificial buildings are being like destroyed through a natural force like fire, we need to re-examine precisely what it is that we are grounding ourselves to, or what we're using as an anchor in our daily lives, or in our perceptions, and the way we engage with the world, or in the way we think of ourselves in the world. If we depend too much on artificially built things, these artificially built things are far more fragile than natural things. Natural things are much more permanent. And for long-lasting foundations, the foundations that we build, whether they're psychological, emotional, physical foundations, it's good to call on things or use things that are more natural than things that are more artificial. For example, this just popped into my head very vividly. The more our society becomes dependent on digital things, the more fragile our society becomes. There are many things that can ruin a digital system. Electromagnetic interference, bad weather, so many things. Programming glitches and bugs, accidents, spilling your coffee on your keyboard. There's so many things that can destroy a digital foundation. It's very, very fragile. While it is very, very sophisticated and interesting that humans built this digital system, it's also weak. It can collapse. It's like a house of cards, essentially. And we sometimes get caught up in it. All of our money is just photons of light on a circuit board. It's not as real as it once was, unless you still use cash or things like that. But all of our communications, all of our, sometimes we work online, and it's where our income comes from. We get direct deposits into our bank accounts, and our clients are people we've never met in person, and we become more and more dependent on these artificial things. And then one day something happens to this artificial thing, this digital infrastructure, and poof, there goes all of your money, there goes all of your clients, there goes all of your friends that maybe you never met in real life but only online. And it can really pull the floor out from under you. If your floor was something artificial like this is just an example, and then something happens to it, you don't have it. How far you fall depends on how dependent you were on the thing. So if you're not very dependent on it, you don't fall very far. You land on the thing that's natural, that's always there. You know, whether this is your spirit or perhaps something more earthly, like the earth itself and the natural environment. So check where your dependencies are and determine whether or not you should really be dependent on them. And if you can reconfigure your dependencies so that you have something more natural and stable beneath you, and that you don't have very far to fall should something happen to the artificial thing, which is part of your foundation. Because I also pulled the I Ching hexagram of the 64th one, the final one, which is not yet fulfilled. The third line is a changing line, which is establishing the new. So here we have the idea that you indeed were pushed beyond a boundary, pushed out of a comfort zone perhaps, or something happened that has put you in a position where you now need to act and you need to make a decision. And there's a natural pace to this. Of course, it probably feels very sudden and shocking. It probably is very sudden and shocking, but you still shouldn't rush the process, even though this process is probably happening rather quickly. Don't rush through the process. Go with the natural pace that it's going at. And also don't try to artificially slow down the process. It can feel like, I don't know if you've ever run down a hill and you can't stop. It's like your legs just keep going and you have to go at a very specific pace. If you go too fast, you'll fall over, and if you try to slow down, you'll fall over, and you have to run at the pace that the hill and gravity are forcing your legs to move at. You're kind of in that position. So keep your balance and observe everything going on around you and within you, and be very, very cautious, like you're running down that hill at a very specific speed, and maintain that natural specific speed, because speeding up or slowing down at this time will probably lead to you falling over. This is not a good spot to be in, unfortunately, but these things happen to us where things outside of our control just really throw a wrench in the gear or force us out of a situation and into a new situation. But the key here is that there might be some help that you're reluctant to accept or that you're not quite seeing, but there are other people or forces that are offering you like fellowship at this time. The word is fellowship that I'm getting. It's not so much help as it is like mutual understanding. And, you know, sometimes we fail to notice this, especially if we're in a frazzled state of mind, where we don't notice the fellowship that's around us or being offered to us. So that's one thing that you should try to find if that's the case for you. If there are people or energies around you that understand what it is you're going through, can offer help, and you can also help them in a way. And in this mutually beneficial relationship, you find a key to having balance and getting through this situation. Because it's a chaotic situation, and order will come of it, but that order is not there yet. It's still chaotic. And as long as you stay true to your inner purpose, you'll get through it. There could be things that you think you need to grab onto, like a lifeline over here, or a change of direction over there, or something, because the chaotic situation may have frazzled you a little bit. But as I pulled the alchemical symbol for the earth, it's like when you're in a situation like this where you've been forced out of a comfort zone, sometimes the only way you can ground yourself is by grounding yourself with your own inner purpose, your own inner compass, especially when something you've relied on turned out not to be very reliable. It turned out to be somewhat fragile or even deceptive in bad cases, and that foundation has essentially crumbled for you. It's gone. It's gone, essentially. And it can lead to feelings of being desperate and just looking for anything that will help you, you know, slow down or stop running down the hill or get to the bottom of the hill faster or something like that. And we look for any kind of lifeline or any kind of opportunity that will, in the short term, help us. And sometimes when we look for short-term stability like that, we sacrifice our own inner vision, our own goals, our own ethic, our own inner purpose, really. That's inadvisable because, you know, something short-term could become long-term. It could wind up being a mistake to look for a short-term solution when it would be better to just stay the pace, follow the natural flow of this chaotic situation, and know that you'll get to the bottom of the hill if you stay the pace. Don't rush it, don't slow it. Just keep your legs moving, right? At the appropriate clip. Because short-term solutions for long-term problems or for things like this might become long-term, and that might be undesirable. Nothing is more permanent than a temporary government solution. I don't know why that just popped in my head. It's an old joke. So look out for bureaucrats at this time. I'm going to pull some cards for you and get some clarification here. So this crossbeam, I'm interested in this crossbeam that I saw in my meditation. There was only the crossbeam. The ceiling wasn't burning or anything else in this cottage or this home. It's just the crossbeam. And these flowers growing. So let's get a little bit more into what that might be. The Princess of Cups. So this is like the Page of Cups in other tarot decks. So now on the more negative aspect of this can be naivete or a little bit of emotional immaturity. But while naivete and emotional immaturity might lead us into trouble, it can also create a sense of newness. You know, those types of emotions are, they're kind of like green, like a sapling, like a young person, you know, where they're very fresh, very vibrant, very flexible. They have so much time to grow into something else, and it feels very good to have those types of naive, immature emotions. You know, imagine like when you're a teenager and you fell in love for the first time. It's like it completely consumes your consciousness. It's all you care about. Nothing else matters, and that can be a beautiful thing, but it's also it can also be destructive. So perhaps here this is part of where the chaos is coming from, and part of why this foundation is threatened or weakened, because there's a newness. Perhaps some naivete got you into, or allowed, it could be got you into trouble and removed or damaged a fragile foundation. That's actually a good thing, because that freshness and newness, like a sapling breaking through a sidewalk, right? Ruining a foundation, or roots of a tree cracking in through the foundation of a home. It reveals certain weaknesses. Sometimes we have very mature and stable emotions, but those tend not to reveal many weaknesses about ourselves or about a situation we're in, because they're too stable. And while we don't want to feel immature and unstable emotions often in our lives, when we do feel them, they do have a way of revealing and even destroying things that are weak. And then we have the opportunity to observe how and why that happened. This is where I think the grounding comes in. So I'm going to pull a card on that, on the earth element here, the next part of your reading. Because feeling like fresh, intense emotions, perhaps emotions you've never felt before, or emotions that we haven't felt in a very, very long time, need to be grounded. Oh, the Ace of Cups. So yeah, there's an abundance of this feeling. And it can be used to nourish that which, oh, okay. So a foundation was eliminated and it revealed a more stable, natural foundation that your attention has been brought to. Like I was talking about before, when our artificial constructs and foundations are threatened or damaged or destroyed, how far we fall depends on how dependent we were on it. And it's always advisable to find the more stable, natural things to build the new foundation on, or to use as the new foundation. And your attention was brought to that. And this, whatever this feeling that welled up within you, can actually be used to nourish the new foundation. Although it may have destroyed the old foundation, it is an opportunity to, it wasn't wrong. Although it may have been naive for the circumstances you were in, it may have been fresh and immature according to the environment that it was in, that you were in, and according to the foundation, it was inappropriate for that particular foundation. But it's very appropriate for this new foundation. These feelings can be channeled into something like nutrients and fertilizer and water for soil, and you can choose what you grow with it. This emotion is abundant and fresh, and you just need to find, and I think you probably already have found, specifically what types of flowers you want to grow on this soil, right? Like, what can you do with this emotion? It's not going to go to waste. You just need to figure out what you want it to nourish. And it's going to be something a little bit more natural, a little bit closer to the earth, a little bit closer to your natural spirit, your inclinations. And it's something that brings you calmness and clarity. Think of what brings you calmness. When you mix this emotion with calmness, what comes of it? You can feel this fresh, young emotion, and while feeling it, imagine that which is serene, that makes you serene, and see if you can find that admixture. If you can juxtapose this feeling you have plus that which makes you serene, hold these two ideas or images or feelings within you, within your mind and your heart at the same time, and try to find that Venn diagram, that where they overlap, where they're the same but different, where they work together. And that is what you can build your new foundation with. And I think you'll find it's a far more stable foundation than what was previously there. It's something much more natural and long-lasting. And it's something you already know. You just might need to bring your inner awareness to it. This inner purpose is in the middle of that Venn diagram. If you're unaware of it, do that exercise. If you are aware of it, explore it further so that you can find the practical steps to bringing it out. Let's pull one more card about this inner purpose. The Ace of Pentacles. Oh, by the way, the calm, I don't know if I showed it. Did I show this? I pulled this to clarify the Ace of Cups here. It's the Six of Swords, which has to do with calmness and tranquility and clarity of thought. And so this inner purpose has a lot to do. It's another ace here. You have two aces. The Ace of Pentacles. It is much more solid and natural and long-lasting. Your inner purpose is in line with the natural harmonies of the world. Like maybe It's in line with seasonal changes. It's in line with natural processes. It's, you know, it's in harmony with the Fibonacci spiral. You know what I mean? It's like that. It's far less artificial and far more natural, whatever it is. So not only looking at that Venn diagram of what brings together this fresh new emotion and what brings you serenity, but that thing in the center of the Venn diagram is, you might not believe that it's something stable. It might not appear to be that way until you practically apply it. You really do it. If you just think about it and let it remain in your imagination, you won't be convinced that it can be a foundation for you, for your material life, for your spiritual life. The thought experiment is not enough to persuade you. You have to actually take the practical steps and do something with it. I don't know what that would be for you, but it has to be pragmatic and practical. It has to be you actually acting in the 3D world. And once you get moving and you see how it works, listen to how you feel about it, how you feel about carrying out these actions, about making this vision more tangible and material. That's when you will be persuaded. So you might have to kind of force yourself to find the time, the wherewithal, and the motivation to actually do this thing practically. You know, get the tools together, go to the places you need to go to, talk to the people you need to talk to, take the steps and actually do it, even if you're not fully convinced of it. So you're going to have to kind of discipline yourself and force yourself to go through and start taking these steps. After you take a bunch of steps down that road, something's going to click, and through practical action, you will convince yourself that actually this is good. This is going to work. And that's how you stop running down the hill at that pace. You get to the bottom of the hill, and now order came from the chaos, and you're back into control of what you're doing. So that pace that you've been forced out, and you're forced to run down that hill at a particular pace, not too fast, not too slow. You have to feel what's natural. It's by sticking to your inner purpose, finding, not denying this fresh new emotion you have, but modulating it with what brings you serenity. Put that together while running down that hill at that pace you're at, and taking the steps while you're at that pace. That's part of running down this hill, is like, okay, I need to call this person, do this. I need to get this ball rolling over here. I need to be very careful and aware. I have to be very cautious about what I'm doing, but I need to do these things. I need to do something with awareness and deliberation. Like, you're doing it deliberately and in full awareness of, this feels right. I don't know if it's going to pay off. I don't know what the future is going to be, but it feels correct on a soul level. And as long as the actions you're taking feel correct and are keeping a pace with the chaotic situation you're in, I think you're going to find that it's going to work out really well. So I'm going to pull one last thing for you, Aries. One last token. Pull this all together. What's the last thing that Aries needs to know and think about? Two things. Okay, so we have the astrological symbol for Leo and the number 5. Focus. Okay. And the windmill and the number 9. Okay, so here we have something very, very strong and central to your life that is like the guiding light of your life, and it's also work. It's also the process, and it's the natural. Again, the windmill is the natural pace of natural work. You can only grind as much wheat as the wind allows, because the wind, a natural force, is what's powering the windmill. And so you can only place the appropriate amount of wheat within the mill to be crushed and processed. Too much, and the wind might not be strong enough, and the gears might stop because you put too much wheat in there. too little and you're wasting your opportunity of this natural force that's blowing your way. So you have to find the exact right amount of stuff that you can process with the natural forces. And it's something that's very, very powerful and central to like your soul's mission in this world. And you've got exactly what it takes. You know, the windmill, that's a sign of properly applied resources that are at your disposal, of using what's at your disposal, making nature work for you and with you instead of trying to work against it. And you have the awareness and the knowledge already to do that, the capacity and the resources and the ability to lead and command these resources together. It's already there. There's really nothing you need to look for or change. You need to find your inner resources that are already there and just apply them properly. So this is very good. You know, this I Ching hexagram's not the best to have because it requires a lot of caution and awareness, and you've been forced out of something that just happened to you, you know. But you have everything necessary to safely get through this and to turn this chaotic crisis into an opportunity that opens up a new chapter for you. And it's going to be very natural, and the foundation is going to be very long lasting. And you're going to easily be able to just see, you know, in these crisis, chaotic situations, we're forced to call upon our inner resources, and you'll just see, like clear as day, okay, I can do this, I can do that, I can go here, I can talk to this person, I can start doing this, I can look at that. And it's like, you'll amaze yourself at all the things you already know, all the things you already know how to do, all the resources you can call upon now. They'll all just well up within you. And these might have been things you didn't even notice about yourself that are now coming to the surface automatically. And you'll feel really, really great about all of this. So stick through it, keep a pace, and call upon your inner resources. And while it is a chaotic situation, it's leading you to a new chapter with a very good natural foundation. So Aries, I think that's where the Oracle and I are going to leave it for you here today. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate you stopping by, and I'll see you next time.